Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I am, of course, your host, Armando Venditti, and today I have a very special guest, Mr. Ryan Gavalier. How's it going,
Hello. Oh, I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Ryan? I'm doing good for a beautiful sunny Friday morning.
It's good.
Yeah, things are great. The weather is warm and sunny. It's beautiful, and I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts because winter in Alberta lasts like 10 months. No, I'm not lying here, but anyways, I digress. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do here is another installment of Misguided or Misunderstood. Now, this is a topic that I came up with, and the um, basically the rule of this segment is we pick an album from an artist, and we discuss whether a certain album that they released was a misguided step by the band or was the album overall misunderstood by the audience or by the general public at large, you know, with what they were trying to promote and bring across with the music. So, in this episode today, we are discussing the band Yes and the album Big Generator. Now, Yes, at this point, consisted of Trevor Rabin on guitars, John Anderson on vocals, Chris Squire on bass, Alan White on drums, and Tony Kaye on, in this case, somewhat keyboards. We'll get into that in a second. This album, Big Generator, follows up their massive hit of, I keep forgetting the 90215. I keep getting the numbers in the wrong order, right? So, released on Atco. Both releases were on Atco, a subsidiary, sorry, of Atlantic Records. Um, just a bit of a background on this album. Yes, we're under pressure to, no pun intended, we're under pressure to come up with a follow up with, from 90215 from the record company, and they wanted another hit like "Owner of a Lonely Heart," which was a number one hit for them, the one and only number one hit. So Trevor Rabin took it upon himself to start writing music for the album. A lot of stuff happened. They recorded this album in Italy at first, with Trevor Horn at the helm, producing again. It quickly turned into a bit of a debacle because, from the information I've got, Trevor Horn basically wanted to separate John Anderson from the rest of the band with regards to the recording process. And John Anderson wanted to collaborate with regards to lyrical ideas, musical ideas. He wanted Trevor Rabin to go into more of an adventurous uh, direction, keeping in line with their progressive rock roots. This did not sit well with Trevor Rabin or Trevor Horn. So there was a bit of a dust up there with regards to that. At some point, keep saying Trevor Rabin, Trevor Horn, who was frustrated with the slow process of the production, basically had conflicts with both Tony Kaye and John Anderson and decided to leave the project completely, thus leaving Trevor Rabin to produce the rest of the album. And now you're up to date. So, what Ryan and I are going to do, we are going to discuss our thoughts on this album. Was it a misguided step, or was it misunderstood by the public at large? So I will hand it over to Ryan to give his opinion. Take it away, Ryan.
All right. So I think this album I would definitely put it in the misguided category personally. I don't think it's an entirely bad album. I think there's some cool moments on it, but I just think hearing Yes try to do kind of like white snaky hair metal type of songs is just kind of embarrassing, to be completely honest. I mean, I liked what they did on 90125 with like the pop stuff because I think it fit them. But hearing these like heavy guitar rips behind them is almost just kind of laughable with John singing and stuff. It just doesn't mesh well for me. I do think there is some cool production choices on the album though. I like some of the like brass arrangements. I like some of the more classical kind of moments, like the beginning of Love Will Find the Way, or
Mhm.
whatever that song is called. Yeah, Love Will Find a Way. I like the like strings at the beginning of that song. I think that's really pretty. Um, I think that Rhythm of Love is just a pretty well written song overall. I think that one's solid. I think it's still pretty cheesy and dated, but I could see it would have been good. I think the song Big Generator is embarrassing. I think that's probably the worst one on the album for
Mhm.
sure. Um, Shoot High, Aim Low, I think has cool moments in it because it's kind of moody at points. But then it starts to go into kind of like a radio rocky, like White Snake type of territory, and I don't really fuck with
Mhm.
that stuff. So, um, yeah, I didn't really like that part of it, but I thought there was some cool stuff toward the beginning when it was a bit moodier. Almost like Love. Love Will Find a Way. Like I said, I think the beginning of it is cool, but I think once it actually gets into the song, it's badly produced and
Mhm.
it's really dated, honestly. I don't really see anything really worth it for me with that one. Final Eyes is okay. I'm not huge on that one. I do think I'm Running is a pretty cool track. That definitely goes more into like their proggy roots, but it still feels like they've progressed as a band. Like it doesn't sound like 70s Yes, it just sounds like an 80s version of their more proggy side. So I
Mhm.
like that one, and it's also a longer song. It's 7:34,
Mhm.
so it's pretty long. I mean, there's a couple other songs that are like close to 7 minutes on here, or a little bit, or a little bit on, yeah, a little bit under. But the last song, Holy Lamb, I have mixed feelings about because I think it has kind of like a cool, I guess like kind of like lo-fi version of ambient sound. Like it's not well produced, but the sound that they got is kind of cool to listen to.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's a solid ender for the album or closer, and it's also kind of moody too. Um, and um, I just think that overall, like, I think there's good moments on this album, but like nothing truly stands out to me. I just think a lot of it's just passe. I mean, especially compared to how good the material on 90125 was, I feel like a lot of this feels like leftovers
Mhm.
or like just misguided tracks, like some of the more guitar heavy ones. I actually think the coolest moments on this album are where they're messing with the band's harmonies and stuff and some of the studio tricks. I think that's kind of cool. And it's sort of sweet to see like a progressive band maybe not be quite as progressive instrumentally anymore, but they're doing weird stuff in the studio. So like they're kind of keeping the spirit in some way or another. So I kind of like that aspect of it. But whenever they try to be commercial on the album, I'd say more often than not they fail miserably. So yeah, I'd say it's a
Okay.
misguided album. If I had to rate it, I'd probably give it like a 4.5 or 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
That's
it's all bad, but it's not, nothing is really great.
Okay, that's quite a generous rating out of 5 for this album.
I said out of 10.
Oh, out of 10. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm not that crazy. I would never give this a 9 out of 10.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, guys. Only 2 coffees this morning. I'm still screwed up, so I need more. Um. Okay. Here's a two-part question. Part one, A. What do you think would have made this album better in your eyes? And B, would this, because basically Trevor Rabin is the main songwriter on this album. Do you believe that this album would have benefited from, I mean, John Anderson only has one songwriting credit on this album, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that the album would have benefited from everyone contributing parts and giving ideas and doing a more collaborative effort?
Oh, definitely. I think the worst thing that you could do is give the guitar player all the songwriting credits. It's most likely going to be boring.
Okay. Because there were rumors that originally I heard when this album came out, like a couple of years after, was that John Anderson wanted to go off in a more adventurous direction,
Yeah.
keeping in the vein of the progressive uh, road that they were traveling on, with their past and Tales of Tropographic Oceans and all that kind of stuff. But it was Trevor Rabin that tried to rein him in, and that the
Yeah.
conflict was there. I misunderstood, or I misheard from what I'm read, online, was that it was Trevor Horn that kept him separated, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. I think
it
Trevor Rabin, I mean, he's a serviceable guitar player. I mean, he's good. He's
okay,
no Steve Howe, I'll put it that way.
okay, okay,
Um,
okay.
Anytime
We'll
I
keep.
hear him try to do a shitty blues lick on this album, I want to cringe. It's like,
Okay,
it's
we're gonna
yes,
keep.
God damn it. Like, not Stevie Ray Vaughan. Like, play the guitar. Like, come on. Like, and so, yeah, I think there's too much guitar on the album, to be honest. Um, and I think too much rock. I honestly wish they would have stayed more pop and then had some progressive type stuff. But to have like try to do hard rock songs, it's just not Yes.
Yeah,
Like that's just not them. Like
yeah.
John Anderson has like one of the wimpiest voices in music. He can't handle heavy guitar riffs. Like you got to use his voice right. I feel like
Yeah.
this album doesn't. I feel like a guitar player like Steve Howe knows how to use his voice because he
Mm-hmm.
isn't trying to play crazy heavy riffs the whole time. Like
Mm-hmm.
picture John Anderson and like Black Sabbath, goddamn, like
No,
like it didn't work. Like he's
no.
very much for his type of music.
I get it. I get what you're saying. Um,
Yeah, and he fit pop really well. Like I thought Owner of a Lonely Heart was fantastic. Leave It, Changes, all that stuff was fantastic.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, again, in the case of owner of a lonely heart. Again, I need that third coffee, guys. Um, owner of a lonely heart. From what I read, Trevor Horn kept taking away pieces of Alan White's drum kit from him. So the only thing you heard was him hitting the bass and the snare, bass and snare. Very little hi-hat on that. So I mean, it was a case of less is more kind of thing.
I see, I like that for the drums. I'm not really a big Alan White fan. I'd say give
Okay.
him two pieces, honestly.
Okay.
But
Okay. Rest in peace, Alan White. You know. No, I understand what you're saying. Okay, so you believe Big Generator was a misstep. And we're back.
Yep.
How's it going?
Oh, I'm good. How about you?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are recording and we just regained internet connection with Ryan. He was talking about how he felt about Alan White with
Yeah.
the
Oh, Alan White's a good drummer, but he's not a good prog drummer. He was good with like John Lennon and stuff. So I think reeling him in was a good move.
yeah, yeah.
'Cause I think Relayer might be the worst Yes album up to this point.
Okay. Okay. Um, okay. So you do believe that this big generator was a big misstep. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, I would have to agree with Ryan, ladies and gentlemen. Um, after listening to the album, the only word that comes to mind with this album is repetition. And what I mean by that is the same drum sounds, the same production techniques, that every song musically, like the backing tracks, they all sound the same. The drums sound the same. They sound processed. You know, Danielle Lemoine recently did an interview with Rick Beato online for his channel, and he said that all the albums that he heard in the 80s had this big sort of goosh drum sound and overproduced and processed. He said you would never hear that on any of the albums that he produced during that time frame.
Yeah,
And this album to me sounds the same.
I agree.
I do think that Outgo, Atlantic are guilty in pressuring Yes to want to replicate 90125. I keep saying the numbers in the wrong order, but 90125. Um, I think Yes or guilty in acquiescing and trying to follow up 90125 with an 80s hit. I do think that, I mean, the songs aside, I mean, okay, Rhythm of Love and Love Will Find a Way, the big singles. I think Love Will Find a Way was a bigger single than Rhythm of Love. But even the song titles, Rhythm of Love, where is it? Almost Like Love, Love Will Find a Way. It's like it's repetition beyond belief. It's like the
Scorpions had just had Rhythm of Love, I think, right around that time
I
too.
I believe so. So I think that I mean the albums that were released in the 80s were all guilty of having an 80s sound, like very processed drums, treated drums, whatever you want to call it, a lot of bass synth being used, a lot of keyboard, oversaturation of keyboards, etc. So I think that this album, yeah, is guilty of that. And apparently, according to the information that I've read online, Tony Kaye was very underutilized on this album. He was sequestered in a room above the studio to do his keyboard parts. And he didn't like it at all. He didn't like being in that situation. He
Yeah,
actually hated it. And if I was John Anderson, if I'm a part of this band and I'm being told by the producer, you're not allowed to come to the studio or we're going to have you come in later. No, I want to be in on the whole bloody process. If I'm going to be singing these lyrics and feeling these words and understanding what's going on, I want to be in there and I want to know what the
yeah,
hell is happening. So I think that this album is disjointed beyond belief. I think that it was a misguided step. I think that if they had taken more time to reassess what they wanted to do, I think that this album would have been better, would have benefited. I mean, it had already been 4 years since 90125 came out. I mean, would it not been better to just hold off maybe another 9 months and just wait to get a good bunch of songs together and just make an album that made a definite statement?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's our very humble opinion. So I mean, so yeah, so I guess we both agree that Big Generator from Yes was a misguided step by the band. It was
Definitely.
misguided. So
Yeah, I think there's things to like on it, but I just think there's more things to dislike.
yeah, I just don't find it a memorable album.
Mm-mm.
I really don't. I don't know what else to say. So yeah, this was a misguided step. I'm sorry, guys. You know, and again, this is just our opinion. So for all you guys that are watching, and I hope you are, please give us your opinion down below, down there in the comments, and let us know what you think. You know, do you like Yes? Do you think Yes are overrated? Do you think that Big January was a good step? Do you think it was a misguided step? Do you think it was misunderstood by the audience at large? What are your opinions? Please let us know. And again, hit like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that I've got coming up. Just a quick note, I'm going to be reviewing the new Foo Fighters album that's arriving today. I'm getting it today. Thank you, Amazon, for sending it out so quickly. I'm also going to be tackling Apollo from Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois. There is a reissue, a double disc that I've got coming, and I'm going to be listening to that and giving that a review. So that's
It's
coming
like
up.
that's my favorite, ambient album.
Really?
Yeah, I think that one's classic.
Well, we can always do one together if you like at some point.
We can talk about it.
Sure, we'll talk about it off camera. So for Ryan Gavalier, I want to thank you again for coming on. Glitches and all. I'll try and fix this up and see if we can get it together as a one smooth video. But you know what? There we go.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't worry, I kept it entertaining while you were gone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So again, for Mr. Ryan Gavalier, I'm Armando Venditti. Hopefully you guys having a great Friday. Please look after yourselves and one another and be good to yourselves and each other. And we will be chatting with you very soon. Have a good day. Bye for now.